Hi and welcome to this episode of the Online Course Creator Show. I am Lou Blakely, your host, and today I've got a very exciting interview coming up that I think a lot of you are going to benefit from, and it's all about how to create raving reviews from your course with instructional designer Maria Doyle. So it is a expert guest interview. I met Maria recently and I asked her straight away to come on the podcast because I thought she had a really interesting way of talking about creating an amazing learning experience within an online course. And something that I see a lot of is people selling courses, like I help people with the marketing and sales side of it. And yes, we do dive into the actual course content. We definitely do that. However, we don't dive deep into creating the exact learning styles that's going to get the outcome for the person. And Maria, as an instructional designer, is an expert in this field. This is all she does. So I thought I'd bring her on today to help you figure out how to create your course content so that it absolutely gets the results that your customers need to get as a student of the course, as a customer, as someone who has purchased from you, because it is really only when we have people that get results from our courses that they start to spread the word and tell other people about them. Then we are able to scale and really grow our revenue as a result of 100% knowing that our online course gets results, and it just creates so much momentum. So I really hope that you enjoy this episode with Maria today. She shares so many great tips for you. So definitely stay tuned and enjoy. It is a reasonably long episode, and I really feel like the second half of this episode is where we really got into the top takeaways that you are really going to benefit from. So make sure you stay and listen until the end. Hi, and welcome to the Online Course Creator Show. Today I have a special guest, Maria Doyle. I'm so stoked and excited to have you here today to talk about this really important topic. So, Maria, if you could just give us a moment to share what you do, how you help people, and what kind of led you to doing this kind of work.
Yeah, for sure. So I am an instructional designer, and I've been in education and training for about 25 years. I've worked in, I think I've lost count, to be honest, but I think I've had 18 overseas postings. I've lived and worked all over the world, teaching, teacher training. And then I ended up in project management, actually, more an educational consultancy. So I went out on my own after a bit of a health scare out in the Pacific, and decided to go out and do what I do best, and that is help people take the knowledge out of their head or out of a really shitty PowerPoint and turn it into like an online course or a learning product that really works. So when I was sort of looking at business options, I was doing a lot of courses and I was looking at them going, what is this? Like, what? This is not learning. Like, obviously, because I'm a teacher and I'm coming from a teaching background. And I was basically just horrified at the standard of what was acceptable as online learning. And I got a fire in my belly. This was about 13 years ago, and said, this is not hard. Good learning is not rocket science, like why does this exist? So I went on a bit of a mission to get good quality education and training out there into the online world. And yeah, I've been doing that now for 13 years and I love it. It's awesome. Work with great people, learn a lot of really interesting stuff about fields I would never be interested in normally. Neuroscience, accountancy, and everything in between. So yeah, it's good fun.
Yeah, that's so interesting. Is it quite a niche field? Because I've never
It
actually
is.
heard of someone. I mean, yeah, we have instructional designers, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But is what you do with the background and coming from that teaching background, it seems like quite a rare thing.
It is, and it's an interesting niche of skills, and that's, I guess, what I bring to my clients is that ability to see learning from all different levels. So I have taught in primary, secondary, tertiary, vocational, postgrad settings. I have been a student in all of those settings, and a lot of those settings have been international postings. So I spent quite a few years working as an English teacher, working with cultures and people from all over the world. And so what I bring is this sort of really interesting international sort of range of experiences. And when I look at a learning experience, I look at it from a very holistic background. So I'm looking at the learner. Who is the learner? What do they need? What's their generation? What's their technology level? How willing are they to go and do practical tasks? All these sorts of things. So because I've been a teacher and a learner and a teacher trainer in all these different contexts, I can look at you from very much from the eagle view and go, okay, so let's look at what you need, what your client needs, and then let's create a learning product, more often than not, some sort of online course or some sort of blended learning coaching program. And let's make it work for you because you have to deliver it. And then let's make it work for the people who are going to be in the course, because if it doesn't work for them, it's useless. The best course designed for the wrong person is not the best course. End of story. So yeah, it's about really shaping and molding that learning experience to the people who have to deliver it, being you, and then the people who have to learn from it, being your clients. So yeah, it really is sculpting and learning. It's not just the tech. A lot of people are like, oh, are you a Kajabi expert? It's like, no.
Yeah, it's about the actual structure of how you're setting up the
Yes,
learning process and creating wins for the people
exactly.
inside. Yeah.
Yeah, and the structure is, I could talk about this for the next 3 hours, but we won't. It's about providing outcomes for people. It's not just information. You can get information from anywhere. I can Google if I want to learn how to operate a camera or how to create a sales funnel for Facebook. I can Google that and I can find it out. I can ask ChatGPT these days and they'll write me a tutorial about it.
Mm-hmm.
So, it's not about the information. I mean, it never has been about the information. It's about what you do with the education, with the information. So yeah, it's about sculpting that learning experience to not just deliver content, but also to deliver outcomes. And that outcomes come from people actually doing something with the information, not just learning about it, but implementing it. Like, go on, use it now, go. That's what
Yeah.
creates results. So yeah.
I love that. And you said something before about creating the learning experience based on your customer. And, me coming as a online course launch strategist, my focus is really on the marketing side, like the strategies and, basically the marketing to get people to buy the course, whereas you're focused more on what happens after they purchase. And I thought what you said was really interesting because in marketing, we talk so much about the ideal client, right? But we don't really talk about what happens to them after they become a customer. And I just think that's really interesting. So, what are some ways that we can actually create for different types of customers once they're inside an online course?
Yeah, good question. It really depends on the learners. So if you've got the type of learners who are maybe on a bit of a budget and they're really motivated, they want to do the self-study, they're happy to get in and watch video after video and do worksheet after worksheet or whatever, that learning product will work for them. If you've got clients who are like, I want an online course, I just want to do the thing. And so a coaching or a blended program might be better for them. So it really depends on who you've got in front of you and what they're willing to do, how much time they've got, what their budget is, how motivated they are to learn without you guiding them through it. Like I created courses and tried to market them, and then I realized that my ideal client was not interested. I've got online courses online as a demonstration of best practice and what I do, and like, here you go if you want to learn something. But that's not where the bulk of my clients come from. The clients that want to work with me are just like, yeah, I know you know what you're doing. I know you're going to turn my PowerPoint into something that it is not at the moment. I want it better. I want it best quality, and I want people going off and raving about it. So they don't want the online stuff. And so I don't have a product like that because I know that they don't use it. I tried and it didn't work. And I was like scratching my head. Was this not working? I know it's a good course because my ideal clients don't want a course. They want to work with me. So, it's about knowing your customer enough to know what they're willing to do, how much they need guidance from you, how much they need their hand holding. And then once you're inside that experience, then you create what it is that they need. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So, what I'm hearing is it's about marrying up their skill level and motivation level with the type of learning experience that you provide and how much hand holding you
Exactly.
include and that kind of thing.
Exactly. And I have had client after client come to me and go, oh, I put all this time and effort in. I've got this like 8-module series. I've done all the PowerPoints and now I want to get it into this online course. I'm like, great, we can do that. Okay. And they're like, can you quote for me? I'm like, yeah, but let's have a conversation first. Who's your target client? And so they start talking about them. And then I'm like, okay, so they're not kind of online learning people. Are they going to do a course? And they're like, oh. And they're like, oh my God, you just saved me like 20 grand. And I'm like, and a whole heap of heartache, like, so it's really looking at the target. It's looking at the learner, and it's being good quality education is all about it being learner centered. It doesn't matter whether you're in a primary school or you're in a postgrad program. It's all about the person at the center of the learning experience. And it's not the teacher, it's the learner. And you've got to build outwards from that. So if you don't know who your ideal client is, you can't create a learning experience that's going to be a Raving success, because it has to be tailored to them.
Yeah. And what is your position on like how to cater to different styles of learning within one program as well?
Yeah. So you can't keep everyone happy. You've kind of got to pitch in the middle. That's the golden rule. So you've got all different types of learners. You've got generalists, you've got detailers, you've got the obvious ones like visuals and audios and kinesthetics, and we can go on. Like there's as many different learning styles, and then intelligences as well. The multiple intelligences, like the musical and the mathematical and the statistical. Those. Do you know those as well?
I haven't heard of that.
So it's all different ways that brains work and what sort of sparks them, and what the ways that you can get through to them so that they understand something way easier. And the thing to understand about learning styles as well and multiple intelligences is you can't just say I'm a visual learner. That's nonsense. Like you might be more visual in some ways, but you might be more kinesthetic in other ways. Like, for example, if you're trying to give me directions and you go turn left and then go around the thing and then turn right, and then I'm just like, you lost me at the first turn left. Like I border on audio processing disorder some days, you know what I mean?
Yeah, your brain just
So,
kind of goes all fuzzy and you're like not even listening anymore.
Yeah, so I'm terrible audio that way. But if you want to tell me a story about your history and you want to tell me about your childhood, I'll remember that in infinite detail, no problem, because it's a story and it's not steps, right? So I might be more audio in other ways. So it's not about saying, oh, all of my learners are visual learners or all of my learners are kinesthetic learners. It's about going, okay, in this learning experience, how can I cater to all of these different styles in different ways? So it might be having a PowerPoint, having questions on the PowerPoint when you're talking to it, but then also having images that demonstrate what it is you're saying. So having a question that's opening up those people who want to think first, be told later, and then also giving them a practical task where they can write about it or they can reflect on it, because some people are deep thinkers and need to process things afterwards. Other people get it immediately. So it's about looking at all the different ways you can create exercises or activities or opportunities for them to digest the information in different ways. So you've got 4 macro skills: listening, reading, writing, reading. Did I just say the 4? Listening, speaking, reading, writing. Listening, speaking, reading, writing. Oh my God, can you tell I was an English teacher? So yeah, if you're giving those 4 macro skills a chance to be used in every course, so give them an opportunity to go and speak to someone about it, or go ask people questions, or share with a buddy or something. They're the speakers, and then you've got that kind of intelligence around the conversation intelligence. So that's where people process by talking, and women tend to be more, sorry, being a bit gender specific here, but we tend to process our problems by talking about them, whereas men go off to their man caves and think about them. Okay, massive generalization, but you hear what I'm saying. So yeah, give people a chance to write about it. Give people a chance to do a bit of reading. Give them a chance to listen and watch and engage in all those different ways. And that's why online courses that are 10-minute lectures times 8 don't work, because you're dealing to one type of learner. And this is why traditional education doesn't work. You sit kids in the classroom and you talk to them. You're only really appealing to the kids that are good at listening and processing like that. So these days, education is very different for that reason, right?
Yeah, interesting. So, like, one of the things that I know is a massive problem with online courses is like, it's all well and good doing a big launch and getting tons of people into your course, but I believe that a business is about way more than your online course. And usually, for most people, if you want to really have a highly, a lot of revenue coming into your business, you need different offers for different stages of people. But if people get stuck on that first course, they never actually go anywhere, like because they don't get results, right? And something
Exactly.
that course creators struggle with is, people buying their course and then they're looking in the stats on the back end and they're like, nobody's actually doing it. I
Mm,
definitely know, and it depends on how the offer is structured, right? Whether there's coaching calls, whether there's a community as part of the
mm,
course,
yeah.
helps 100%. But what tips do you have when it comes to actually creating the course content around actually moving people through that process?
Yeah, look, and this is I'm a lifelong learner myself, and I'm a voracious online learner. Like I love kind of like, "Ooh, what's that person doing? Oh, what's that person doing?" Because A, I love learning, but B, I love seeing what people are doing and how they're engaging people. Um, and I've got to say, like some courses, I don't get past the first 5 minutes because I'm like, oh dear, like what's going on here? Sorry, that might sound a bit judgy, but I guess
But some of them
it's like
are quite bad.
hairdressing.
Like, let's be real. Some of the
Well,
courses that I have bought have been a massive disappointment.
and the reason being is that what people can do face to face in a room full of people that works really well, they think, oh, yeah, I'll just record that as a video lecture series because it works really well in a classroom or like in a workshop. So I'm just going to record that. And then I'm going to put it up with some, like, watch this video. And then for what? You know what I mean? Like if you're in a classroom, you'd be having a conversation, you'd be throwing it back to people. It wouldn't just be a series of lectures. There'd be some rhetorical questions and you'd be having conversations as part of it. You might put people off into little breakout rooms or breakout tables and get them to brainstorm or role play and all this sort of stuff. And you lose all of that when you're online.
Mm.
So, well, if you're video recording a bunch of lectures, you lose all of that. And that's the biggest mistake I see people making, going, okay, I've created this amazing workshop. It's going to work online. It's like, no, it's not. Not in the same way. You need to adjust it if you're going to keep people engaged. So, in terms of that engagement, it comes down to a lot to structure. So much like marketing, and you'll confirm this for me. If you're trying to sell someone, for example, if you're trying to sell them a weight loss program, you're not selling them the gym. You're not selling them the diet. You're not selling them all those things they don't want to talk about. You're selling them the end result. You're saying, don't you want to run around with the kids again? Or do you want to get to the top of that mountain that you've been wanting to climb for the last however many years? Like you sell them the end result, right? That's marketing 101, is it not?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. And learning's exactly the same. And somehow we missed that. Like lecturing didn't teach us this about learning. So if you want to keep people engaged, they've got to be there from the get-go. And that's why I always start with an outcome and a pain gain. So let's just go to that weight loss example again. For example, we're not saying, would you like to sign up for 10 weeks of like gym classes and, like a very low calorie diet? Like, yeah, people would be like, no, thanks, and walk out the door. What you say is, would you like to run around with your kids again? Are you sick of feeling lethargic and lazy and having no energy? Do you want all that energy back and to feel like you were 20 years ago? All right, we're going to learn how to eat and exercise to maximize your body's potential. I don't know, that's all very fluffy and off the top of my head, but that's what you're selling, right? So it's that kind of the pain, the gain, like where are you now? Where do you want to be? What's the flip side? And then how are we going to achieve that? So giving them a good, clear outcome. So if the outcome is you're going to learn how to eat well and exercise for your body, depending on your whatever scenario, then the practical tasks have got to cover that. So if you're promising an outcome, you've got to match it with practical tasks that'll get them there. So if you're, for example, teaching Facebook ads, there's no point to, like in the panel, you need to do X, Y, and Z. It's like, okay, so give me a task. I need to actually create an ad series at the end of it. And
Mm.
then someone's going to come and actually check whether I've done that. So whether it's like a checklist that you have to follow and then you've got to do it and then present it to to your coach or your whoever it is, your facilitator. It's like give them a task that they're actually going to achieve at the end. Give them some guidance on whether they've gone well or not so well with that. And then they're walking away going, yeah, she said I'd learn how to do that. And look at me, I've done it. That's amazing. Awesome. I'm going to go and tell all my friends. And
Yeah.
that's how you create raving reviews. People walking away going, I didn't just learn information, I actually put it into action. So that structure should be for every module of learning. It's not a lecture. It's why am I here? What am I going to achieve? And then what do I need to know to be able to hit that goal by the end? What task am I going to be able to do? So yeah, that's kind of the secret sauce. It's not really secret, but
So
it is.
it's about reminding them of the outcome once they're inside the program, but
Yeah,
also breaking their outcome down into module level, into lesson level, so that there's a purpose
yes,
every single lesson and
every
they know what
single
it is,
lesson,
they know what the outcome's going to be. That inherently just increases motivation when people know
100%.
what the outcome's going to be rather than just sitting there and feeling like they're absorbing information but nothing is going in. One thing that I
Going
say
in.
is a big problem with online courses, and I made this mistake with my first online course, was it was like a
Mm,
massive encyclopedia of what was in my brain because I thought that's what an online course should be, but it was actually
yeah.
so overwhelming. And what I realized as well is that the people on the other end of that did not need the level of knowledge that I had as an expert in that area. They just needed to know how to get the result that I'd promised them.
And that's why when I'm with a client and we've decided that, yes, like there needs to be some sort of online learning component to whatever it is that you're doing, like whether it's a blended learning program or whether it's completely self-study, which is very rare, but anyway, um, then I always start at the end. What's the point of this module? What are we going to do with this? And sometimes it's like a reflective outcome, like I'm going to reflect on my own practice as a marketing coach and like how, a reflection, like just reflect on, okay, I've learned all this stuff. How am I going to change what I do based on what I've just learned? Like it can be that low level practical task. It's just a reflection, but it's getting you to think and apply the new knowledge to your own life. It can also be like a fully fledged, think assignment level task where they have to use everything they've learned and demonstrate to you that they know what they're doing. I've got an online course about online course strategies, like, how to build an online course that actually uses the strategies that are going to keep people interested, like this, using a conversational style, not like an encyclopedia professional textbook kind of style of language, all of these sorts of things. It's all in there. But at the end of every module, it's like, okay, you think you got that? Show me.
Mm.
Show me a slide or show me a workbook page or show me something that you're going to use in your course that reflects what you've just learned in that program. So, and that's why also I think it's so important to include some level of support. Like just saying, here's my online course and good luck with that is how people are meant to stay engaged. Like if you've got these great activities that get them to demonstrate or how they've applied all the knowledge, it's like, you remember what it's like at school. You want to show the teacher and you want to go, did I get it right? Right? Like it's just human nature. You want to know if you've done it right. You don't know. You're not the expert. That's why you're working with them. So giving them that ability, even like my online course about online courses, it's like it comes with a little coaching bundle. It's like an hour and a half. It's like, and use it any way you like. You can have 30 minutes, like, and there's a couple of 15-minute catch-ups in there as well, or we can barrel into your course using all these strategies, or you can do a few modules and then show me what you've done, and then do another couple of modules and show me what you've done. So it's just that touch point where it's like, that was a really good point. I think I've done it in my workbook. Can you check it and just tell me if I've done it right or not? Super powerful, super powerful.
Yeah, so I'd have to say there's quite a big segment of people that do want to create self-study courses, though, basically, but mainly for their own lifestyle in general. They don't have the capacity for whatever reason to be on
Yeah.
calls. Like the
Mm.
occasional call is fine. So for some people, but like there are a lot of people that do want to create self-study courses, and usually generally from a marketing point of view it's very much contingent on lower cost, right? Like a course
Absolutely.
without any type of interaction or community is going to be cheaper. So there is a
Yep.
market for that as well, which is the like DIYers who are
Mm.
can't afford the big
Yep.
cost coaching programs and that kind of thing. So, if you were going down the self study road, are there any ways that you can help encourage the completion without you as giving up your time to come in any
Yep.
way? Like one
Yeah,
way that
look,
I could think of is accountability buddies. I'm not sure what you think of that, but that could actually be quite
yeah.
good.
I was just going to say, if you're not going to provide at least, like I say, once a month Q&A with my facilitator, someone who can take your place and not actually have to do it. That's an easy way to do it. Pay someone an hourly rate to turn up once a month or once a fortnight and just field questions and help people through their tasks and stuff. If you don't want to offer anything like that, including your own self, then yeah, getting people to work in a buddy system or buddying people up that like it depends on the working relationship. And I get if it's low cost, then creating a community where people can find buddies or talk amongst themselves. The problem with creating communities is that they create a whole heap of work as well.
Yeah.
Like there's got to be a moderator, there's got to be someone getting in there and actually answering questions and stuff. So not always as helpful, but creating a directory of people if they want to be found, if they're that month they've signed up and they want to find someone else doing the course, and you've got a VA or someone who can connect them or put them into a small Facebook group or a community group and say, this is not moderated, it's not regulated, but here are other people doing the course, and you work it out amongst yourselves. Then yeah, I mean, I understand, like, I want to do something low cost, I want to do volume, I want thousands of people going through a small low cost course. And if you've got the following, like if you've built a list and you've got a large group of people you can do that to or for, then good on you, and that's great, awesome, happy for you. But some sort of support, always, I would always recommend. I mean, it's not impossible to do that, but yeah, some sort of support.
Yeah, and I guess there's something to be said that if you do want to go down that self-study road, making sure that you're, from what you said before, that the outcome is constantly being reminded to them throughout the program.
So outcome of the whole program, but then outcome of every module as well. So like, what's the point of this? Why are we doing this? What are you going to achieve? Being constantly reminded of that. So before, at the start, at the end, yeah, super important for motivation, like just to keep them going.
Also, you need to make sure that your ideal client is actually pretty highly motivated. If they are a person that wants that hand holding, then you're better off going that like group coaching program type scenario.
100%. So yeah, that if you know that your target clients are low budget and highly motivated to get through the course, then that is one of the very few situations where completely self-study courses can work. Yeah. Can you tell I'm not a big fan?
Yeah, I think the flip side of that is that there are a lot of business owners who find the idea of it very attractive. You know what I mean?
Oh, passive income. Hello. Yes, everyone wants a passive income. So yeah, but again, you've got to have the audience to pitch those sorts of things too. So, if you've got an audience for it or you've got a good marketing strategy for it, then, brilliant. Good on you. Fabulous. But yeah, I'm a big believer that giving people a chance to interact with someone about what they've learnt in your course at some point, and it can be very, very, very low touch on the course creator's point. You can set up mechanisms for monthly Q&As and things like that fairly simply and at very low cost to you. So yeah, it's up to you. You, at the end of the day, you know your target market, you know your business, you know what you want. Like I said right at the start, it's about tailoring an experience for what works for you and for your ideal client. And if that's what works for you and your ideal client, happy days. Go forth and create courses.
Yeah. Another thing that I think is quite good, like in Kajabi, you can set up a comment section so people can comment under videos and ask further questions. I think that's quite a useful tool to look out for in a course hosting platform as well.
Absolutely. Again, it needs a bit of moderation. So you do need
definitely
to make sure that people aren't making horrendous comments and things at each other. Because I've been in those courses before. My God, it's like beep, 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 like back out, get out of here as soon as possible. So having some way of students being able to talk about what's in the course it's a great way for people to interact. But yeah, again, it's going to take some sort of presence from someone, you or a VA, just to monitor and make sure that it stays positive and constructive and, useful, helpful kind of questions. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. So group coaching programs, obviously they are, how do you look at them versus like an online course, or would you consider them to be pretty similar in terms of the learning experience you provide, but there's just more support?
It depends. A true blended learning experience means that there's more than one element. So if you look at all the elements that you can provide in a learning experience, it could be a book, could be like an article, like, a range of articles. It could be a video series on YouTube. It could be that could all be delivered to you by email. You can have a community. You can have one-to-one coaching. You can have group coaching. Like it's a kind of, it's one of those dolls that you stack inside of one another. Like there's, so many different layers to what you can provide. So a group coaching program could be once a month. Like the interaction could be once a month. It could be blended with one-to-one sessions as well. It could be with a facilitator, without a facilitator. You could just get masterminds of people to be there and to show up and to sort of compare their practical tasks together without a coach. So it's really, again, it's kind of what's going to work best for you and for them. What do they need and what are they willing to share in front of other people? So I tried the group coaching, like, let's get our online courses up to scratch, and big poo-hoo. Like my ideal clients are like, I don't want other people saying how shit my content is before it's out there in the world. Or, like, how can you guarantee that there's not going to be my competitor in this course?
Mm.
And I'm like,
Yeah.
oh yeah, good question. We're all individuals. Like, they're sort of, I don't want someone to steal my ideas. Again, different mindset, whatever. So yeah, is group coaching right for your target market? In my case, it is most definitely not. But I'm in a business group coaching kind of scenario where, there is someone who leads us, but it's not really driven by curriculum. It's driven by the needs of the people that are in the course. So depending on who the people are that turn up and what specific issues they've got, there'll be a guest speaker brought in, or there'll be a mastermind around a problem or topic. So there's no preset curriculum. It's more created based on needs as you go. Again, there's just so many ways you can do it, right? Like it really depends on who your client is and what they need. How many times have I said that?
Yeah.
But it's what everything boils down to, right?
What's your take on, because there's a lot of talk about, well, you just provide, there's a video and then you add in the audio. So that takes care of the audio learners, and then you make sure the transcript's in there. And, then you can put in a worksheet. So that really helps the kinesthetic people. What's your take on that? Because that is the general advice that I see out and about, how to tailor to different learning styles. But I don't know if that's the answer.
It is and it isn't. And I think people get stuck on this like visual, audio, kinesthetic. And it's like, that's just three of like many. Like we're talking 20, 30, if you take all the intelligences into account as well. So, yeah, if you've got an online course and you're trying to keep someone engaged, it's less about the medium and it's more about the structure. So, that structure I was saying before about like, motivate them first. What's the pain, the gain? Like promise them an outcome, give them some theory, give them some examples, and then like get them to do the task. That is best practice structure. Like that's on my website. I've got a whole article that steps out best practice structure for a learning experience. So whether that is in a transcript, on a screen, in a video, in a PowerPoint, spoken audio, in a podcast, it doesn't matter. Like if you want to teach people something, those are the steps to go through. So if you can mix up what you're doing in those stages to appeal to different types of learners, you're giving people a chance to think, you're giving people a chance to write, read, speak, listen, all of those macro skills. It's about a variety of all of those strategies rather than just choosing one. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. Because just simply, like personally, when I log into an online course, I'm not, and it depends on my learning style, right? But I'm not going, like this is awesome because I can have the transcript and I'm going to read it instead of watch the video. Like it's not actually going to change the result that I get.
No, it's not. No, it's not. And I've just actually done an article on my website about that exact process. So like there's lots of different ways you can use the same information to create completely different learning experiences. So I've got the same lesson, in inverted commas, as a transcript. And then the second version is as like a video-led tutorial where I talk you through the slides and then give you little practical tasks all the way through. And then the third version is like a fully interactive online learning experience with like, buttons and match this and do that, like, that sort of online learning software. So, you can do any three of them. You can do a mix of them. There's no reason why you can't have like a little video and then like a few questions and then a bit of a quiz and then, back to a little audio, like listen to this. Now, what do you think is true or false? This, or this? Like, how much did you learn from that little thing up there? So it's about mixing it up. And I've got like a sample lesson on my website that takes you through that exact strategy. So it just like plonks you in the learner seat and go, I see all these strategies working now and how they work together to engage you. So it's not just about saying, quizzes engage people. I'm going to put quizzes through everything. It's like, okay, that's one strategy. And also asking questions and then delivering answers, or asking questions and discovery learning the answers. So saying, what do you think the answer to this is? Here's three options. Which one do you think is right and why? And then they've got to click on one and then they see whether they're right or wrong. So it's all of these different little strategies together. When you're creating an online learning experience, regardless of whether it's a transcript, whether it's a fully PowerPoint tutorial spoken through experience, or whether it's fully online with no video, no audio, no nothing, those strategies is what keeps people engaged. It's the asking questions, it's the layering, it's the scaffolding. Yeah, it's not about the tangible pieces that you're providing. It's more about the strategies that you're using regardless of the product you're creating. So generally speaking, I recommend that you have a quiz that actually asks people about how confident they are. So like, are you confident, or do you know how to, if we're going back to the weight loss course, do you know how to eat well for your body shape, for example? Or do you know how many calories you should be burning via cardio active? I don't know. Obviously, I'm not a fitness coach. But you ask a bunch of questions that gets people to really think, actually, no, I don't know how to do any of those things. That's why I need to do the course. So that becomes part of the marketing language. So that sort of quiz that's straight up like, actually, no, I can't answer any of those questions. That means, yeah, that is the course for me, because I actually want to be confident in all those areas, or I want to know the answers to all those questions. So quiz first, qualify the people, get them in, always a good way. And especially for people who think they don't need the course, because then you give them a quiz and they get 2 out of 10. They're like, what? Maybe I do need to do this course. And then giving them those pain and gains when they first turn up. And then, as we've said, talking them through the theory, the demonstrations, the activities. So most of my clients end up walking away with some sort of blended learning experience. The products are video tutorials, quizzes, workbooks that match the learning experience. So the questions you're asking in the learning experience are mirrored in the workbook. So it's like, it ends up being like a reflective journal of notes that you've taken from the course, what you've learned, how you're going to change things, your practical tasks. So maybe it's your checklists or your to-do lists or your journal pages or whatever, like all in kind of like a solid book that they get to take away. So that's generally speaking what most online courses that I help people create consist of, the actual tangible pieces. So the PDFs, the worksheets, the videos, the tutorials, the online course, the quizzes. But yeah, again, it's the strategies that you use inside them. It's not the information.
Yeah, I think there's something to be said as well for, as someone that's selling online courses, to actually pay attention to how far in the course someone's getting, where are they getting stuck, like maybe having those quizzes that test their understanding as they actually go through, so that you can be like, well, for some reason they're not understanding this part, like I need to either deep dive more into it, create more thorough videos, or maybe it is about, I'm doing a pop-up call on this topic to help you deepen your understanding. Yeah, because I think getting people to the result is obviously the thing that's going to give you the long-term results from a course.
Absolutely. And people can get handbrakes for all different reasons, right? Like the reasons I don't complete online courses, and you can feel free to add to this list. And then for anyone listening, like think through your course and whether you possibly are guilty of this. And not guilty is a terrible word, but possibly whether this is something you could look at and refine or improve in your own course. Like I open it up and I see 10, 15-minute video and I'm like, I don't have time for that right now. It's too big. The chunks are too big for me to engage with. And I possibly might be on the ADHD spectrum a little bit. Short attention span, right? So like I want short, powerful chunks that then I can go and do something with. I don't want to have to listen to this long rambling thing and then it's like, too much information at once. Or too big a chunk of things that I have to go and do. So like, for example, if I did a course on oh, I can't remember what it was. I think it was something technical to do with websites back when I thought that I wanted to do this side of things myself. It may have been SEO or something, I can't remember. And it was like the to-do list was it was so massive. I was like, oh, like this is a full-time course. Like I need to set aside like 10 hours a week to keep up if I'm going to watch the videos and then do all the things that they say that I need to do before the next Monday where there's a Q&A and they're going to answer my questions. Like, so preparing the students enough to know, like, you need to set aside this much time every week. I wouldn't have signed up if I'd known that was going to be that much work because then I couldn't keep up. And then I just like, well, there's another couple of grand gone. Do you know what I mean?
Well, I'm
So
in a course like that at the moment. We were on catch-up week, which is week 6, and I haven't done weeks 3 to 5 yet, and I feel like it's so much that I don't
totally
even want to do
overwhelmed.
it. Yeah, I think less is more. There's
Yeah,
something to
look,
be said with having actually a
100%.
lot less in courses.
Oh, people come to me with a course and I'm like, um, uh, is this a year-long program or is this actually 3 courses you've got here? Like, what? And they're like, I can push people through these in 12 weeks. I'm like, what? If you want your head to explode? Like, I just, I just helped this psych, absolutely gorgeous woman. I love her to bits. What she came with for this 12-week course, and because they used to do it face to face and in a super intensive way, like where you came into the workshop space for like 3 nights a week and then one day on the weekend or something. And she's wanting to move this into like a blended learning model. So you can do it, a lot of the lecture type stuff first and then come for the workshop face to face on Zoom and do the talking bit. And I was just like, I don't know. I mean, you must have blown people's brains out in that 12 months face to face, but like trying to recreate this online and getting them to digest this stuff alone, we ended up like 2/3 the course, like 2/3. What is that? Is not even English. We ended up cutting out like 30% of the content and actually making that the intermediate program that would be like the second level of that program, and then extending the time out to include a couple of breakout weeks because it was like, just give it the first 4 weeks are so intense, the stuff that you're going through and what the revelations that people are going to be having from this, like let them breathe, give them a couple of weeks to let that stuff sink. I don't think we give enough credence to that need to process. And you've got kids and you've got husbands or partners and you've got elderly parents or you've got all this stuff happening around you. You need to give people the time to digest as well. So 100% agree, less is more. More often than not, I'm not trying to add stuff to courses. I'm trying to have rational conversations with these subject matter experts, beautiful people, just want to help, just want to give them all the knowledge. It's like, just crank it down. Like, it's too much. Like, let's make 3 courses instead of 1 here. This is a good thing. You've got level 1, 2, and 3 of the program. People don't have to have everything at once. Like you were just saying with your course, when you just tried to put in everything you knew. It's people often, they need the surface of that. They need the practical. What do I do with this stuff?
Yeah,
Right?
I actually see that with literally 100% of people I work with is they want to include everything. And I think sometimes it's a thing of, you feel like you got to prove that it's really amazing, but having more that they'll never do because they're stuck in overwhelm isn't going to get them to the result. So sometimes it could even be looking at that outcome or promise of the course and actually making it a little bit smaller. And there's nothing wrong with having a longer program. You don't need to shove it all into 6 weeks when it really should be 6 months.
Exactly. Like let me get a taste. Let me know that I really want to work with you, that I can see the results from like maybe a smaller version, and then you can build it up, like and real change, especially in business development or in personal development, it takes time. It doesn't happen overnight, and no one wants to be fire hosed with information. Like, I mean, unless you sign up for an intensive course and you know exactly what you like, this is going to be 2 weeks of intense training and I'm here for it. That's very different. And that's a whole other target market of people, right? Who just want to go. If you said to me, would you like to do an online course or would you like to turn up? What would you do? Like, what's your preference?
I think it really depends on my commitment to learning.
Exactly.
Um, and if I'm going to get a qualification out of it, I would probably
Uh-huh.
be more steering towards I want to go in person and learn. But
Yeah.
then there's been times where even if I wanted to do that and it suited it, it doesn't work for my life because of children.
Yeah.
So that's a big
Yes.
factor as well, I think. So it's all
Yeah.
about
And so,
picking
yeah,
your ideal client and knowing who they are.
100%. And like, for example, the certificate for in training and assessment in Western Australia, which does not teach you how to teach, it teaches you how to operate in the bureaucratic system that is the vocational education and training system in this country. Oops, did I have to say that out loud? Yeah. Anyway, if you look into doing that, it's like a 6 month online course, or you can go and like go hard and do it in a classroom. And it's very practical and it's all like, it's ticking boxes and all the things. I would far prefer to go into office and spend 1 month intensively getting that out of the way than trying to maintain my focus on it for 6 months when I know I don't even want it as a qualification. You know what I mean? So that, again, it's the motivation to learn. Like, why am I there? If I actually have to turn up at an office and I've paid for this thing, then I'll turn up and I'll do the work because I'm there. But if you're expecting me to do this in the snippets of time I've got outside kids, partners, grocery shopping, and business, and all the rest of it, it's just going to fall off the table. It's not going to get done.
Yeah.
Right. So again, like, what's the motivation level of the people? What are they willing to do? Where are they willing to turn up? And then what's your subject matter as well? So, I'm preparing to do like a hike later in a year, and there's a program where I have to go to Melbourne 3 times. And it's like, well, that's a motivator, isn't it? You know what I mean? Because I have to physically turn up. If it's just me doing my online fitness thing through my app, it's like, yeah. Right? So,
Yeah. One
yeah,
of my
what's your
friends was
motivation to
telling
be
me
there?
yesterday that she just signed up with a new personal trainer and she's like, she's really expensive, but she texts me every day.
Yeah.
I thought
And
that
that's
was
what you're
really
paying
interesting.
for.
Like, that's what you're paying for. But she was like, because of that, I have developed new habits. I'm going walking every day. I'm doing this, this, and this.
Yeah.
Like, I'm really motivated because I have someone checking in. And I think that's where a group coaching program can be so good because of that. The coach is
Yeah.
actually pushing you along. Like, there's no doubt that works. You just
Yeah.
got to make sure that they're paying for it,
Yeah,
like it's
exactly. And if
reflected
it's
in the cost.
absolutely, and if that's a better, like, budget wise, if that's an option that your people would be more interested in, because they can actually, they get the butt kicking, they get the accountability, they get to turn up, and they've got to be honest with the people in the group and the coach, and that you can offer that for a price that is way more affordable than if they were just turning up to you one on one. And if the subject matter is something that you're happy to share, like a fitness group, I'd be more than happy to be in a fitness group coaching. It's like, oh, how many glasses of wine did you have this week? Whoops. Um, like, I'd be happy to turn up and talk about that stuff. But there's topics I wouldn't want to be in a group in talking about either. So it's really about what you're teaching, right? Like, is it a privacy issue? Are people willing to turn up together? Do they want to turn up and be motivated by other people? So, yeah,
Yeah, I think with
again,
there is a lot of people who don't want to be in groups, but then also I think there's so much benefit from being in a group. If you don't have any privacy issues and there's so much to be said for actually being in a community and learning from each other as well.
oh, I love it. Like, it's my preferred. There is obviously certain subjects that I would prefer to be individually coached on,
Yeah,
but in
definitely.
terms of, like, yeah, being in a business group and like celebrating each other's wins and like hearing how people are dealing with different challenges and stuff, like, that is by far the best way for me to, like, be involved in my own business development. I have worked with people one on one before. I have got, some amazing results with different people. But in terms of the cost of the outlay, I think I'd prefer to be in that group coaching, because then you also get lifelong friends from that. You've been through the same learning experience before, and you often stay connected to those people, right? So, yeah, again, what does your learner want? What are they willing to do? What are they willing to pay for? What value are they going to get out of it? And the value is change. You can't put a ticket, you can't put a monetary value on that, can you?
Mm. There's so much
Mm.
crossover as well between creating a good offer with the kind of learning experience you're going to present, I think, because like you have to have people out there that want the learning experience that you're creating. We're talking about some people want one-on-one, some people want groups, some people realize and understand it's going to take them 6 months to get to the result, whereas some people want to do like a smaller portion. So it's all
Yeah,
about marrying up that offer with the learning experience that you're going to provide.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, and this is what people say, like, what's the best way to create an online course? And I just kind of look at them and say, that's like saying, what's the best car to drive?
Yeah.
I have no idea what you're going to use it for. I don't have no idea how many people you're expecting to fit in it. I have no idea how much luggage you have. Like the best car could be a Maserati and it could also be, like a Toyota Land Cruiser. I don't know. It depends. So you've got to look at creating a learning experience the same way as you'd look at selecting a car for someone. Like you've really got to look at it from so many different angles, and you've got to know yourself, the person who's delivering it, and the people who will be benefiting from it. You've got to know them deeply to understand how to create the best product. There's just not a one size fits all process. There is a best practice structure to adhere to, but there is not a one size fits all product. It's just this nonsense. It's like saying there's a one size fits all car.
Yeah.
Impossible.
I agree. Yeah. You talked about, and this is a question I get heaps, and you mentioned it before, is longer videos versus shorter videos. I've always encouraged people to make shorter videos. That I think there's a feeling of accomplishment when you hop into an online course and you can watch a quick video, get that part done, move on to the next one, rather than these long, drawn out, like 40-minute videos. And one thing I particularly don't like as a person who's bought lots of online courses is when the lesson is a replay of a live call and it starts with them going, "Hi guys," like, "Hi," and welcoming everyone and saying all their names. And you're sitting there like, I don't have time for this. Like, I will always fast forward that stuff. I think that's like a bad learning experience, but so many people do it.
If you're going to reuse something like that, you can recycle them. But as you say, like, you've got to chop out the start and do a different intro and say, thanks for everyone for joining. This was actually a live call, so you might be some questions, but let's just get straight into it. Like, it's not hard to put a little intro there to show that, yes, you are using something that was recorded live, but this is the version we're doing for you. And I guess the length of the video, this is why I keep coming back to this kind of structure that so the best practice structure is one thing, but how to break a script into a fully engaging learning experience, whether it's online or not, is about breaking think about a script. If you were to break every 150 word chunk, which is about a minute's worth of talking, into a core question, what are you answering in this minute? What is the point of the blah, blah? I'm a bit harsh with my clients sometimes. So what I do, they give me a script and I break their script into questions. And if I can't figure out what question they're asking, they're answering, then it's blah, blah, right? So sometimes I'll go to them and say, there's 3 pages here. I can't quite figure out what it is you're trying to get across. And they're like, oh my God, you're right. This is rambling nonsense. And whoop, it'll come back to like, say, 300 words instead of 3 pages. So it's about looking at your script and going, what is the point of every 150 words worth? What am I trying to get across? What answer is it providing for my learner? So if you can then provide a mechanism at the start, like on screen or in a workbook or whatever, and go, these are the 10 questions that I'm going to be answering in this 10-minute video. Do you know the answers to them already? Have a bit of a think. Ready? Now I'm going to tell you what the answers are. So you've already set up that learning. They're already like, I think I know what the answers are, but I don't know. 10 good core questions, 10-minute video. I'll stay engaged because every minute I'm like, oh, she's answered that. And I'm taking notes.
I love that.
Does that make sense?
Such a good tip. Yeah.
Right. So if you've got 10 minutes of blah, blah, you know what it's like. You get to the end of the lesson and you're like, what was I meant to take away from that?
And then you just turn it off and go and do something else.
Exactly. Like, that's 10 minutes of my life I'm never going to get back. But if you've got 10 questions in front of you and you're like, actually, I don't know the answer to any of them, I've got no idea. Or you think, yeah, no, I don't need to listen to that video. I've let, because, like some marketing stuff, it's like, oh, how do you define your ideal client? It's like, yeah. I've done so many training on that. I don't want to do that again. And if I saw those questions, I'd be like, yeah, I can answer that. I'm not going to waste my time with that 10 minutes and I'm going to move on. So if you're not going to have a good structure, but asking core questions to lead someone through because it is a lecture. If it's a 10-minute video, it's a lecture. Get down and jiggy with that. If it's a one-person, one-sided conversation, it's a lecture. And if you're going to give people a lecture, you need to give them a reason to listen. Because if you don't give them a reason to listen, they're going to be online shopping in the other screen. They're going to be giving themselves a manicure. They're going to be answering that email or that DM that's happening over there because they're kind of half listening, like, yeah, I'm a bit interested. If you give them a list of questions, they've got a pen in their hand or they've got like the worksheet and they're ready to type the answer in front of them. So break it down into questions. 150 words, there should be a question. Every 150 words. more or less. It's a minute worth of talking. It's actually quite a long time. Some of
Oh,
my clients
that's
have got
so good. Yeah.
many more than 10, one question per 150 words, many more questions.
The
So it
beauty of
becomes like a
that is it
checklist.
eliminates the rambling and it makes
Yes,
the videos shorter, which means that when you look at the time that each video is, it doesn't put you off. And the other thing
exactly.
that have you seen those people that launch online courses and they say things like, there's 40 hours of lessons, like as though it's a good thing?
Oh
And
my God, that would make me, I would not buy if that's
well,
what it was.
same. As a consumer,
Ugh.
I'm like, I don't want that. Like that
No,
doesn't
but how
make
much more
sense.
powerful would it be if you said there's 10 modules and in every module there's 10 minutes video and then there's a good half an hour to an hour practical task to prove that you can do what it is that you do? Completely different story, isn't it?
Hmm.
And if you think about the length of your videos, like, okay, a minute, 150 words, at least one question, whatever. If you think about that in terms of even shorter, like if you could just give them a 3-minute video and a practical task or a reflective task. And that's what this sample lesson, and we'll put it in the show notes if that's okay, so people can actually go and experience it for themselves. Like, what does a transcript look like? But then also, what does it look like when I chunk it down into tiny little pieces? So that lesson where I teach you the tutorial is all about how to take a script and turn and come out with workbooks, quiz questions, and all the rest of it. Like, it's the process. So it's a 5-step process. That transcript, if I was to read it to you, would be 15 minutes long.
Yeah.
Who wants to listen to a 15-minute lecture? No one. So I've broken it into 5 little mini lessons. So each little mini lesson is 2 to 3 minutes. And then there's a task for you to go and do. Like, go and have a look at your stuff. Could you do this with your stuff? So if you only got time for 2 of those 3-minute lessons, it's okay. And then I'll do the rest later when I've got the kids down. So like, I've listened, I've applied, I've listened, I've applied. And like, that's 6 minutes of learning and you've done 2 activities and you've got the answers to 4 questions in your workbook. Like,
It's like a
way
dopamine hit as
more.
well.
It is like, oh, look at me, I succeeded. Look at me, I got it right. Like, that's the whole taking it to the teacher thing. Like, look at me, I got the answer. Oh, I understood what she said. There was a question and I got the answer right. That's human nature stuff, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like, we all want to learn. We all want to be right. We all want to get
That's
things,
funny.
ticked off. So yeah, I could talk about this for hours. You can tell, can't you?
Yeah. Well, it's been so good to have you on, Maria. I've really loved this
Yeah,
conversation. I feel like we could
good.
talk about this all day as well. I think for me, I've just been writing some notes while we've been chatting, and I think you've shared so many good takeaways that people listening
Thank
to
you.
this are going to be able to actually go and implement. But as you just said, there's the sample lesson, which I'll definitely add to the show notes. But I think the biggest things for me are structuring your online course or your group coaching program to the specific person who you know is going to be in there and tailor it to them.
Mhm.
The pain and the gain, and always sharing what the outcome's going to be, not only for the entire course, but also breaking it down per module and even per lesson. I think that's amazing. The other one is storytelling. I think that's a really good tip that you don't need to be like super lecture like, and you can tell stories to get across the lessons. And I
Absolutely.
think also that breaking the the script down to 150 words or about a minute of talking and then asking a question
Yeah.
in that time chunk, I think that's absolute gold.
Yeah, because it really sets them up for success. That asking questions piece and the storytelling piece is. I'm doing a workshop for a group in a couple of weeks around using ChatGPT to create content. And that is exactly what that workshop is all going to be about. It's like ChatGPT can do some of this stuff, but ChatGPT does not have your years of experience. It doesn't have all your stories. It doesn't have all your case studies. It doesn't have all your examples. And when you tell stories about what it is that you're doing, your information comes to light. It goes from being a ChatGPT automatically generated piece of theory, which you can get from any Google, like Google, and your storytelling, your demonstrations, your examples. It's like, oh, she's been there, she's done that, she knows what this looks like in real life.
Mm,
Like, that's why people come to you. They come to you for your experience. They're coming to you because you are not Google. You are not ChatGPT.
yeah.
So you that has to be part of that best practice structure, the examples, the demonstrations, the storytelling, this is how I learnt this lesson. Don't go down the same road that I did. It's got to be part of it. It makes it so much more engaging.
Yeah, that was actually the key part of the feedback that I got from my first ever online courses. I went out to them and said, you've done the lessons. I'd love to know what you felt there could be more of. And the big thing that came back was they wanted more examples, like more specific examples.
Look, people, this is one of the strategies in the course as well. It's like saying, which car do I buy? It's like saying, oh, yeah, that's a really good restaurant for a vegan, sending them to a steakhouse. You know what I mean? Like, you've got to understand, who is the target market? What do they want? What do they think is going to be good and bad? So you can't just talk about the fact that a good restaurant has good service and good tables and lovely waiters and, lovely aesthetic. It's like, it's going to be a shit restaurant if vegans want to eat there because it's a steakhouse, So like the examples bring that whole, they bring your content to life. You can't do good information justice without the stories that go behind it, the examples, the demonstrations. Yeah, it's like trying to teach someone what a good restaurant is without giving them an example. It's impossible. So yeah,
so true.
Super important.
Yeah, that was when I was like, I'm just going to create like a lecture style course with everything that I had ever learned about this topic. And yeah, I've learned so much more since then.
Conversation style is all the way. That was when I first did my first version of my online course, like in 2013. The biggest feedback I got was, oh, I felt like you're in the room with me. I kept going, oh, what do you think about? And like, I wanted to have a conversation with you because you were having a conversation with me. So I felt like I was meant to be responding, and that's what you want. You want someone engaged, not like off sending text messages because they're, kind of only half listening. You want them thinking, writing, answering in their own minds, like really engaging with you. So yeah, conversation style is the key to everything. Even if it is script based, have a conversation with them. Don't lecture them. No one wants to be lectured.
I love that. So many good takeaways. Thanks so much, Maria, for coming on. Where can people find you if they want to connect with you beyond this episode?
MariaDoyle.com is my website. I've got that sample lesson there that's free, that gives you like one good strategy and really plonks you in the learner's seat, which is good fun. I get a lot of ha-has after that lesson, like, oh my God, that really put me in the learner seat. So there's that one. And then that article on how to turn a script into a whole suite of learning products. That one as well is a good one just to understand that process. And again, it's another free lesson on the site. So I don't really do social media. It's a bit more of a personal thing. I am on LinkedIn, but again, I don't really do much on there. So yeah, just my website's the easiest place.
Okay, cool. I'll make sure I add all of those resources to the show notes, which if you're listening right now will be in the description below. So thanks again, Maria. It's been great. I've learned so much and I'm sure the listeners have too.
Awesome. Thanks, Lou. Anytime.
Cool. See you later. Thanks, course creators and go-getters. You're incredible, and I hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you haven't done so already, make sure you hit subscribe in your podcast app so you don't miss an episode. If you'd like to find out more about what I offer, head across to loublakely.com. See you next time.